I got a couple more questions.
Okay.
I know that you have a new project that you're working on. I'd love to hear about that, so folks out there will know what's in the works for Ray Weaver coming up.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to assemble the political or the socially conscious songs or whatever into a project. Hopefully, we'll have it out. We'll have the full project out by next year. I plan on getting a new single, if that's what you call them anymore. I don't know. January, February, and then we'll start building from there. Um, this song is done better than I expected. But everything has a very short shelf life
Of
these
course,
days,
yeah.
Whereas in the old days, the run of a record, as they call it could be 6 months or whatever. It's not going to be that
No.
this time. You get 3 months, you get maybe 90 days, and this one's we're into the second month with this one, and I can see, the streaming is still going well, but we've gone from maybe 1,000 a day down to 300, and then down to 80, and then up. And I want to continue this process that I'm doing with these socially conscious songs and this message. I mean, there's no bullshitting around here. I mean, I'm in the last quarter of this lifetime that I'm going to have, so I want to get this stuff done and get it out there, and I want this music, along with some of the other stuff that I write, which I think, like Confession and stuff, I want that to be my legacy. I want it to be my legacy. So we'll have the project. Hopefully, I'll have the full EP, if that's what they call it, these 5-6 songs, by summer next year.
Well, when the new single comes out earlier in the year, I would love to have you on my other show that we were talking about earlier. The
Sure, love
Tuesday.
to.
I'll tell Cliff about that. That way he can keep us on his.
Hey, let me ask you then.
Sure.
Okay, I've got. We have the Blood Is Never on Their Hands. I've got my Thoughts and Prayers song, which is the school shooting song, and then I've got In Case They're Gone, which is my deportee song, and I've got
Say His Name.
Say His Name, and I've got my seriously, absolutely 100%, anti He Who Shall Not Be Named song, and I'm trying to decide, the next way to go with the single. I'm trying to decide which one do you think would have a more powerful impact on the audience at this moment?
At this moment, I would probably go with the school shooting one.
Yeah, I think so too. That's the you're another vote for that one, and just musically, it's a departure from what we did this time.
Have you
It's
thought
much
about
more.
putting? I know you talked about the Woody Guthrie thing that you did on Facebook. You showed me the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about putting that on
Yeah.
the record?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going
I
to
think
go
you
on.
should do
I
that.
think so. I've actually, it's very, man, you're just like on the top of this shit, because literally I thought about opening with a verse of that into my song In Case They're Gone, because, it just literally, it shows from 1948 to now, it's exactly the same. Exactly the
Well, I mean,
same.
you could use that as a bridge rather than putting a line
It's
from
just,
that song into one of your songs. Use the
it's
entire
going to work.
song as a bridge to the new song.
It's going to work that way. It's just
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, I can't remember. James Lee Burke, in one of his short stories, talked about that. Talked about how one of the characters was saying how unfair it was. Whenever things are going well, and we need people to pick this or clean that or care that. Oh, we love these people. Then things get a little tough. They become the identifiable out group. Then we got to get rid of them.
Oh, the
It's like,
enemy within, right?
oh yeah, that's me. just ask the boss. That's me.
Same here. Yeah, I'm like I said,
Yeah.
Blue Dot, Red State. Here I am.
Yeah. There you are.
So, last question. This might be the hardest one
Sure.
for you to do from your perspective today. We talked a lot about songwriters, people that you know, people that you don't know, people that you immortalize or look up to. This is my Mount Rushmore moment for Ray Weaver. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of songwriters?
Well, absolutely got to be Jackson Brown's got to be on there. Rodney Crowell's got to be on there. this is a tough one because the problem is not inclusion. The problem is exclusion.
Yep.
Who do you leave out? I'm sure you can hear, and the blood is never on their hands. Springsteen has got to be on there, and Bob Dylan has got to be on
Wow, what a freaking list, man! Holy
and
crap!
that's today. Call me tomorrow and ask me again.
Oh, it changes for me all the time. My two constants are McCartney and Simon.
Of course,
Paul Simon,
well,
Paul McCartney.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. When we talk about it, it also depends on what I'm listening to. I mean, I get into interesting discussions with people about this because it's my favorite topic. It's my favorite topic. So, Paul Simon, to be who he is, I think, in the icon of great American songwriters. Now, this is going to maybe sound weird, counterintuitive, but I think he's seriously underrated. I don't think people realize how. I don't think people realize how great he is.
Absolutely ridiculous how overlooked he is. Absolutely,
he is. Even myself. Oh, Dylan, this. From that period of time, melodically, whatever. I mean, you're just not going to find anybody better. You're just not going to find anybody better. And he always seems to be left out of the discussion. I mean, and then you could go even deeper in, all of those. I mean, he's, and McCartney, well, that's just, he's one of those guys. I can't remember who said this to me. He's one of those guys that is so far up the mountain. We don't even think about him anymore when we're having this conversation. He's like, no, we don't have to bring him up.
He's the one that carved the mountain, right? Like
that goes without saying.
He's the sculptor, by God.
Goes without saying. We don't have to mention him. We don't have to bring him up because I had not seen my son and my wife and I, we went to see Paul about 5 years ago here in Denmark. And it's one of those things where I had the same experience when I saw Christofferson, may he rest, about 10 years ago. You go in there and you watch and you're like, he wrote all of that. He wrote all of that. It's just so overwhelming. I mean, McCartney, the show was just amazing and singing and playing. With Chris, it was like, here comes a guy on stage. Probably your uncle Bubba plays better guitar. He can't sing, and he had a really bad head cold. He actually said to the audience that night, you guys paid a lot of money to watch an old man blow his nose. And and then he started singing, and you go, he wrote all of that. Every bit of it. It doesn't really matter that in his own words, not mine, in his own words, he sings like a frog. He wrote that. He wrote Me and Bobby McGee. And he wrote, you're just like, so over. And so some people, you like, if you ask me tomorrow, of course, Christofferson would be on my Mount Rushmore. Tom T. Hall would be on it. I mean, it's like a river. To me, I call it a song line. It's just all connected. Maybe sometimes I don't even think of them as individuals. I think of it as
honestly, it's a vibe. It's a mood, right?
Yeah, it's almost without it's almost like a spiritual thing for me. Absolutely. These guys are they're just there in my consciousness all the time. One of my recent songs, I wrote, Sometimes a Woman. I sang a line and went, wait a minute. And I'm like flipping back through my mental memory banks going, oh, that's a Tom T. Hall line. I can't put that in there. It's just in my head. It's just in my head. And it's like, certainly never an intent of borrowing from anybody, but it's just they're so naturally part of my conversation, So good art is that way. My kids, as they got older, they were like, Dad, you stole every joke you ever told from MASH. We've now watched MASH. All the stuff that we thought was you stole all that stuff.
Oh,
it's like,
gosh.
yeah, probably
oh
so.
My gosh, I'm that guy. I don't know how deeply you follow my social media, but on my
I'm following it very closely now. I find you so fascinating, and I really, it's just like, just to watch a guy like you, a content creator, watch a guy like you that just, for whatever reason you're doing it, the reason that comes through to me is the same way that you know, I just love this shit, man. I
Mhm.
love writing songs, and I love talking about songs, and love telling stories. And when I watch you and listen to you and read your stuff, you just love it.
Mhm.
You're gonna do it whether you get a nickel for it. You're gonna do it.
I tried not to
You
do
know.
it for a really long time, and
I know. I know.
my
I
son
know.
kept telling me all the time, you miss it, Dad. Like you talk
Yeah,
about it all the
you do.
time, you miss it. And honestly, I was doing things for the wrong reasons at times the
Mm-hmm.
first time, and I was
Mm-hmm.
going really hard. We were doing everything live and in the living room. So like
Oh, it's tough.
every Sunday we would turn my living
Tough.
room into a movie set, and we'd have
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 different artists all on the same day.
Wow, that's tough,
So
bro.
I'm
That is
doing like
tough.
3, 4, 5 episodes a week, and then I'm not selling sponsorships. Every episode's 16 hours post production. So it was like, man, I can't do this for what I'm getting out of it. Like, I hate
No.
to even think of it in those terms, but honestly, the Vince Gill, Tony Arata, Mark Germino thing was like the last straw. I could not sell a
Mm-hmm.
sponsorship for that episode. Like, I
What?
could not get a commercial for that episode.
Gosh Almighty,
And
that's
so,
crazy.
like, for me, I felt like I was a pioneer. I was in podcasting too early. Because we're talking about
Yeah, yeah,
2018,
I can see that.
2019, and nobody really
I can see
understood what
that.
I was doing. And then when
No,
I stopped
no,
doing it, everybody else tried to do it and couldn't do it, right? Like what I
no,
was
no.
doing, they couldn't do it. So, but eventually the passion, it kind of, it wins out always. And you know that as a
Yeah,
songwriter.
yeah, it does. It does. It
So
does.
here I
I mean,
am.
I went through periods where I didn't write. I just, or especially perform. I just went through periods where I was like, nah, no
Mhm.
one wants to see an old man like me on stage anymore. It's just not, and I was just like you. I had good people around me going, no, no, just get out there. No, you know, um, you look like shit in spandex, so you're not going to be a rock star at this point, but
Yep.
just get out there and tell your stories. Just get out there and do what you do, and as I said, I have a good core audience, and I'm just now, man, I would love to, I'm not gonna lie, I would love to book a short tour where I go to a couple of different places in the world and sing my own songs and do my own music. But if that doesn't happen, fine. The reason I'm doing it is because these are the songs that are in my head now. This is the voice that I want to have. I think not in any arch way or in any egotistical way. I think that it's important that this stuff gets heard. The great songwriter Jesse Colin Young Jesse has a big part of this. You might have seen it about a year ago or whatever. He put out a thing on social media on Facebook where he was imploring young songwriters to write socially conscious songs because he said it's just not happening anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so he offered some sort of, I don't even know what the prize was. It didn't matter because I'm not a young songwriter, but he was asking young songwriters to do that. And I thought, why the hell am I not doing it? I've got these songs. So, to me, it's, and I don't want to be preachy or whatever. I mean, one of my friends who I gave him the list that I was telling you about what I was thinking about for the next single. He goes, "Are you ever happy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm very, very happy. Very happy. But I also have this other thing that needs to be expressed, I'm actually an extremely happy and upbeat and satisfied kind of guy. It's not that. It's that, I mean, I think Woody Allen made a joke in one of his movies a million years ago where he said, if someone is starving to death somewhere in the world, I just can't have a good time. And I mean, I know he was kind of like making fun of all of us, but I mean, I do really feel that
It's so
way. I
funny you
feel
say
very
that
much.
because, like, my wife calls me the joyful curmudgeon.
We could start a club,
Yeah, I'm
man.
telling you,
We could start
man.
a
It's
club.
like, man, I have such a weird outlook on the world, and where I want people to be happy and I want people to be kind, but at the same time I get so freaking aggravated by life.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
just gets up and especially, I mean, I think more than it just gets so sad in the sense that it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Just kindness, as you said, it's just kindness. If
Yep.
we could just figure out a way to be kind to one another.
Yep.
And not expect perfection from anybody. I mean, not expect perfection from, I mean, I have my bad days. You have your bad days. I mean, Dr. King had his bad days, but he was still Dr. Martin Luther King, and I love it when on either side, when someone says, oh, well, this guy, he did this. Of course he did.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Jefferson had slaves. That's horrible, horrible. But he wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
He literally put down the foundation for how we're supposed to do this stuff. I don't judge people by their flaws. I admire them for overcoming them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to. My history, on a lot of levels, is not the best.
Well, I
I
think at
hope
the
people
same time,
admire
you
it.
talk about admiring people for overcoming their flaws. I think on the flip side of that, we also have to be accepting of those who didn't overcome their flaws.
Yeah, exactly. That's
You
a
know
very
what I
good
mean?
point. A very good point.
Who decided to remain slave owners or whatever
Well,
they
those.
did in those days. We have to look at I feel like we have to look at both sides of that, because I understand the overcoming of it, but at the same time, if they fail to do that, they should be judged for that accordingly.
Well,
Feel.
you're exactly right. It's very important to do that, but also, and I think, I mean, I mean, if you, I think Bill Maher has a good perspective. I don't always agree with a lot of the things he says, and he gets really on my nerves a lot. But one of the things that I do, one of the things that I do get that he's saying is we can't judge now. I mean, I'm sorry, we can't judge then based on what we know now.
Right.
We just really can't. We do have new information. We have learned different things. So to hold somebody from 1945 responsible for something then, as opposed to what we know now, yeah, I'm still going to watch those stupid, shitty movies where women are treated, maybe not the way that we know that we shouldn't do that now. I like detective novels. The fact that, he calls them babes and all this stuff through all the, yeah, it does. It's like, yeah, but it's still a good story.
And we can cringe now, right? Like we can look at that. And we
man.
No,
I do.
But see, the word you used is responsible. Like they can't be held responsible for those things in 1945 or 1865 or 1798. No. And I agree with you, because that's the way of the times. Where I draw the line, and this is a very thin line, mind you, is the difference between responsibility and celebration. And I refuse. I don't want to celebrate those people. No, I just don't. No, I understand that perhaps they're not responsible for the way they were then, because it was part of the way it was. But that doesn't mean me in 2024 should be held to some kind of thing where I have to celebrate them. Like Columbus, for example.
No, of course not.
I think Columbus was a horrible human being. I don't want to celebrate
all the way down to
his
goddamn shoes. I can't stand I mean, and that's that you're exactly right. I mean, Columbus Day, come on, man. I mean, just read a little bit of history, you'll understand what a mess.
It's just the people out there that are like, well, if we tear down history, we're doomed to repeat it. And and I'm like, no, this is not about that. This is about celebrating an individual who was a bad person. Whether they knew it at the time or not is beside the point. Sure, we can't hold Robert E. Lee responsible for the way things were in 1864, but at the same time, I'm not going to celebrate the man in 2024.
You cannot.
It shouldn't work that way.
But you cannot, and that's my fear. Is that we are getting to the point where we're excusing too much. Where, even with me trying to have a balanced situation, I'm not going to have anything good to say about Robert E. Lee or Christopher Columbus. I mean, I don't care if Mussolini got the trains to run on time. I mean, he was a murderous asshole. I'm just not going to, exactly. I mean, the trains were on time, but and he had secret.
Well, hey, Jeffrey Dahmer's mother probably loved him, right?
He probably, and then, I don't know. So it's just, you can't. You have to understand, and I think more in my thought process, I think more of the common person, because when I think about some of the stuff, especially early on in my life, that my parents said, and then my dad became a whole lot more enlightened toward the end of his life and stuff. But when I think, I'm like, they said that out loud in front of people, and I think about it, and also, I mean, this has been a long walk for me too. I mean, I will say that, I was always kind of lucky in that I was surrounded by people that taught me that some of the values that I was hearing in my little small town might not have been the values I want to carry away with me. You know, I was lucky.
And that's the way it is, right? When we're young, we have two choices in that situation. We either fall in line and become what they are, or we rebel against that and we become better than they were.
Well, I certainly know that I, as much as I try to um, respect people for and meet, as my wife would say in her work, meet people where they are. Their values are not my value.
Exactly
that
right.
I'm never going to change that.
Yep.
I'm never going to change that.
Perfectly said. And man, Ray Weaver on the Boston Chris podcast. Ray, if you could tell people one last thing, we are blessed and cursed by independent thought, are we not?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's just one of those things where, what was it that John Lennon said? If I could be a fisherman, I would be a fisherman, but I just can't.
Gosh, I wish I was a toddler again, right?
Exactly. I wish I did. Sometimes I wish I could just wake up in the morning and be blissfully ignorant, but it's just not going to happen.
Set me down in the corner and tell me where to color. That's just what you got to do, please, man.
But you were never good at staying inside the lines, I can guarantee you, and neither was I.
But people are hearing about Ray Weaver for the first time. What is the best way for folks out there to support you and everything that you do?
Well, I have as you mentioned, I have weaverwrites.com, which is my website, which I promise to get a little bit better at updating and keeping things. I mean, and of course I have a social media presence, Ray Weaver on Facebook, and I have I'm an artist on Spotify. I don't know how much or how little these things matter these days, but streaming, going there, listening to songs, streaming the songs, all that stuff will help. And I'm a big radio guy. If you hear something you like and you have a local station that plays indies and stuff, just get in touch with me. Let me know. And just, look for me around. I get played a lot, I think, on college radio stations and stuff like that. So, but just more than in a broader sense, just support your fellow man and your fellow indie artists and people like Boston Chris that are like, not doing the mainstream stuff and trying to get you past, into something that you might have missed otherwise. As I said, I'm not the kind of guy that's ever going to say anything bad about any artist, whether it's Taylor Swift or whoever. It's just that there's other stuff out there.
Taylor Swift is fantastic, first of all.
I love her.
Yeah,
I love her.
I don't know what's wrong with people. She very often makes my Mount Rushmore, so she's up there with
I love
McCartney
Taylor Swift. I don't mind. My daughter, my youngest daughter, got me into listening to her back during, the Tim McGraw days and all that stuff. And I just, I as an artist and as a writer and as a musician and as a person, I can't find anything wrong with her. I really can't. I mean,
just writing about what she feels, right? Like that's what you're supposed to do.
I consider Folklore one of the best records I've heard in a long time. Agreed. So there you go.
And gosh, her new one is just as good, I feel. Maybe not just as good, but Folklore was kind of on another planet. But
yeah, it was.
But yeah, we're on the same page a lot of the time, Ray. I appreciate you coming on the show with me today or tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for taking on so much time with me, my friend. Thanks so much.
I appreciate you being patient and giving me so much time and playing a couple of songs. Again, guys, it's weaverwrites.com. I'm going to spell that out. It's on your screen, but just in case, WeaverWrites.com. We're going to make sure that is in the description below as well. That way, all you got to do is go down there, click on it, see what Ray is about, follow him on social media. I'm going to try to help Ray with his on Facebook as well. That way,
just get that
way he will get an on his Facebook. He does have a Facebook page. You guys can perhaps find him there, but we're going to try to get his set up. But again, Ray, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you on the new show in January or February. I'll get with Cliff on that as well.
All right, great. As soon as the new single's ready, I'll let you know.